Hello and welcome viewers to another episode of Perspect Yourself. I'm Joseph Hanna and these are my fellow hosts, Mohad Basili, Parthenia and Gina. And before we start, as always, we just like to disclaim that the topics that we've picked, we present them to the best of our spiritual ability. They don't represent the views of the church, they don't represent the views of any of the Coptic associations, and they definitely don't represent the views of this channel. They're just us doing what we can. And today's topic is actually one of much contention within the church, and that is businesses within the church. So what that means is, oftentimes we have people outside of church, like they come in, they use the culture center or they use the gym or whatever it is, and they sell products from their job, or they sell a service such as travel agencies or pharmacies or doctors or whatever it is. They advertise within the church, and basically they use the church to sell their product, and they give the church part of the revenue. So is it wrong or is it right? And the point of spiritual reference, and I'm not going to use the direct verse, but it's a story we all know, and it comes from Matthew chapter 21, and it's the story of Jesus going into the temple and basically kicking out the coin collectors, kicking out those selling doves. And before we explain what that story is about, I want to get everybody's views on this because, there's some interesting context behind the story which a lot of people often ignore. Yeah. So, what do you girls think?
I don't know. Personally, I know we've established on the show that, nothing is right, nothing is wrong. Absolutely. We're just giving our opinions. Personally, it makes me uncomfortable.
Why?
Just the idea of people, and particularly, on one hand, there's the people who sell to give the funds to the church, and then there are the people who are selling to collect the funds for themselves. That just really, I don't know, I'm just not comfortable with that idea. I don't know why I don't like it. It just does not sit good with me.
I just feel like it takes away from the purpose of the church. Like, why does it need to be, you could do your business anywhere else. Why does it have to be within the church?
Or
why
you can conduct business everywhere else. Why are you using
and
church?
When you go to any store or whatever, it says no soliciting or blah blah blah. Why does it? Right. Why can't that apply to the church doors also once you enter?
Okay, specifically in our church in Mississauga, St. Mary's, San Anastasius, we have a like a book that comes out. Yeah, a directory.
A lot of churches have that.
Who does? And of who does businesses and who does what and things like that.
That's perfect.
So
I'm not against that. I'm not against that.
That's completely cool. And for that, I think that the church collects X amount of money. It's like whatever. X amount of $100 to rent per page, things like that. That way the church can make a lot of money, or like a decent amount of money like that.
It's
and
fundraising.
You can advertise.
It's fundraising for the church.
It's fundraising.
And you would have to, if you were to advertise anywhere else, it would be this more or less, you generally have to pay to advertise.
Pay that much anyways.
Yeah, so that's a great idea in the catalog.
Right. So when you're talking about why do people take advantage of, say, church, whatever, I think having a base to start from a business perspective, if you just build like a clientele base or whatever, and you can expand from there. I'm not saying you should do all of your business transactions and stuff with like starting from church, and you should only focus on church people or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you use it as a starting off point for a lot of people that have just come to the country, it's a great place to start off.
Mo, you actually mentioned one thing, and I'm going to just get to it. And this is kind of what Gina was saying. She's against that people coming into the church and doing their own business. And it's an interesting point because I've seen in some churches new families that have come in that are basically, they haven't gotten their license in whatever their professional designation is, or they haven't established themselves, their shop or whatever. So what they do is to make their living, they'll use their product within the church. Obviously, they'll donate a portion to the church, and that's how they feed themselves and their families, respectively, right? So what I think is this is actually a good service from the church because you're helping out people in a way that is sustainable. It's not just okay, you guys don't have money, here's a few dollars, and
But how often is that the case, that the people who are conducting this business in the church are newcomers who are trying to establish themselves? I think most of the time it's safe to say that this is not the case. It's people who are very well established businesses, and business is now extended to the physical. The directory is a great idea, because you're reaching out to the community, because the church, it's religious and it's social as much as it is religious. It's that atmosphere. Right. But it is so, the directory is nice, you want to reach out to that community, but to physically extend your service and your business, I think that's a different, that's just taking it to the next level. Like I said, I'm personally not very comfortable with that, and I think chances are those people who are conducting those businesses, that they're the newcomers. That's very rare. I personally have never seen that.
See, the thing is with businesses, it's not clear cut. Let's be honest.
No, absolutely not.
Businesses have a lot of cutting corners and a lot of moral problems, moral issues.
The whole point of business is to make money, right? At the end of the day.
But at some point,
let's not go all of them are cutting corners.
No, but at some degree, a business isn't always to the best of my knowledge, isn't always going to be like clear cut. There's always something that you have to cut a corner in. I mean, that's the way you're functioning in this world. North America's moral standards aren't comparable to the Coptic moral standards, okay? And if you want your business to thrive in that country you're living in, you're obviously going to abide by their rules and by their systems. So to incorporate that system into the church, I feel like, I just don't know, something feels shady about it. It just...
What about, for example, let's pick something specific. Like, for example, the food industry at church.
The food industry.
We all know when we finish church, you know, there's the kitchen. There's always, you know, they're always selling stuff like that. A lot of the time, it's donation, and a lot of people just bring in the food and all that. But a lot of the time, it's not. Like, we have a specific cafeteria area, right? And a lot of people go there.
You have a full-fledged...
Yeah, it's a fully, like, we got tables, and it's like a restaurant going on in church. And that serves not only to serve people food that is just Siami and stuff like that, but also to keep a lot of youth in church and stuff like that. Around the area, we have McDonald's, Pizza, all that, you know, all that kind of stuff. If people would go to church and eat there, we have a better chance of providing them with food and keeping them intact instead of randomly sending them out to, okay, yeah, you just attended the mass.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying there's a profit after this? Or someone profiting?
Yes, those people are making a profit for sure.
Why can't we make the children stay within the church in a different way that doesn't involve someone's profit?
Okay, what about this?
But what's wrong with that?
Let me throw
like, what's wrong with a family?
Because money has this, it gets sticky. Like, I feel like money has a negative, for me, money carries a negative connotation.
Guys, I agree with you. Money does have a negative connotation. And you
because
know,
we live in a country where everyone wants more.
Coming from a business background, I can say yes, money definitely has a negative connotation. But the fact is, this country runs on money. Okay?
But
and I'm
the
not saying,
church doesn't.
No, the church doesn't. But
okay.
the church, I want to differentiate. The church doesn't run on money.
Priority.
Hang on. The church doesn't run on money, but the church does need money. The church has expenses.
And that's a difference.
And as we grow as a community, and as we spread and expand and preach the word, we need more revenue to keep paying off those expenses.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, a student video like this obviously has a lot of overhead.
What about trusting that God will provide?
God will provide. But listen, but we all know that faith without works is dead. So
of
saying
course,
that, like,
but
God,
works with like an ulterior motive
so what if the
is
church,
not
hang on, so what if the
seen.
church, and we see this in many churches, what if the church is the one that owns and operates the business? And there's no profit per se, but any revenues in excess of expenses, which is what is called in non-for-profit terms, is brought into the church and is used to pay off the church's expenses. Is that okay?
As I don't know, there's just too much business lingo for me in there. Yeah. All I know is the business associated with it. Like, there's a reason why people say the saying, when it's don't mix business with personal. You know, when you don't bring your family to, if you, for example, owned, if you were a doctor, right, and your cousin of a sister or whatever it is had a problem of an illness, you wouldn't want to operate on them, right? Okay. You don't mix business with personal.
But that's because of a bias.
No, hold on. Let's continue this with train of thought for a second. Yeah. You don't mix business with personal in many reasons. Okay. Many people do it all over the place, okay? Why are we going to start doing it at the church? Church is personal.
What kind of businesses are we talking about here? We're talking about food. We're talking about the gift shop where we sell statues of Jesus.
Food. Okay,
like, how is that?
Okay, no, we're not talking about these things. We're talking about people that have other businesses outside the church and also use the church to facilitate or network further business.
Yeah, how about the people that are showing up Sunday after Mass and would you like to sell your house? Because here's my card. I'd like to buy your house or sell your house for you. Dude, I just moved in. But would you like to sell your house?
Okay, we get the point.
That, you know what I mean?
We get the point.
Or how about the ones that have a pharmacy attached to the church? Just saying.
Time out. No, I think that was...
A pharmacy attached to church? So what? I'm not...
No. I think
that's
I think the selling of food, that's fine.
No, hang on. I want to clarify something.
Arguments on the fasting, okay, that's fine.
Guys, that was an unfair argument. I just want to clarify that particular example, which obviously our viewers might not understand what we're talking about, but I want to clarify that on the show for those viewers that
you have to understand that there's other places.
That was done for zoning purposes. That had to be done by law. But I'm just going to, moving on to the issue.
Whatever.
Okay?
I'm sure that exists for other churches and other places. And look, we have our...
Absolutely. But, okay, so...
How is it a problem that a pharmacy is beside a church?
Beside
Okay, guys, let's move on to this example. Guys, let's move on to this example.
Shall we put a carnival? Would that suit you?
Bring it, guys, bring it back.
Is it going to make money?
All I'm saying
for some personal reasons?
The church should be devoted to the service and to the people
I 100%
and to the youth.
Absolutely,
nobody's against that.
Of course it is. But when you have other means in the church, it takes away from what is the purpose of the church and why you're going there in the first place.
Okay, I disagree with you. I agree. There has to be segregation of the church and the business. Okay? But at the end of the day, there's the church component of the church and there's the building component of the church. Right? We don't just build churches anymore. Now the churches have schools attached.
Really? It sounds like we just build churches these days.
We have churches, and God bless, more churches, more power to it. Okay, we build churches, but we build a gym attached.
And multiply.
We build
That's what
a culture center attached. We build a school, and all these things.
Well, these are needed services for the community.
Exactly,
right?
those are needed services.
Yeah.
But a community doesn't just expand. Like if we have a school, for example. Okay, you need to feed the kids. Why don't we feed the kids? And at the same time, instead of those kids taking their business elsewhere, we make everyone benefits. Why don't we
happened to being able to work with other people? Why do we have to stay within our community always?
There's nothing wrong with that.
We're saying that we're an open community, yet we're being our own pharmacists, we're being our own doctors, we're being our own schools,
Gina,
we're being our own teachers.
at the end of the day, everybody needs to work.
Gina, owning your own business.
But no,
I think
again.
What's wrong with being our own pharmacists and being, we should work for people, CYC.
No, but it's like you're only facilitating your own kind.
That's incorrect, because a lot of people that are not within the church community come and work within the churches. And we see that in many things. And I don't want to name examples because our viewers won't understand.
You're right. Nobody, we don't have, let's say, as many random cultures coming in, but that's because there's a lot of people in our culture
that need jobs.
And for example, abunas would know things that we don't know.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
and they might put people in certain positions that when we see them, we're like, oh, I can't believe the church is making money. Meanwhile, they're actually supporting a family that we don't know of. Or
I understand that, okay, but at the same time, you have to make sure to be clear on what the church services are, or if these services are needed. It's not, you're taking away from what people view it. Okay, I understand that they might have other agendas that are beneficial that we don't know about. And
but who are we to judge?
Exactly, we are not to judge.
So we're not to judge, why are we judging?
But the thing is, we're humans, and people want to come to a place at the end of the day, on a Sunday, that they can just go to pray.
But that's why.
It's not a bombarded, it's not like
a Buddha during the sermon and be like, and yes, and and Jesus said this, and by the way, Joseph's got his pharmacy business outside, and after the liturgy, let's just all go and buy.
But pretty much
that's not how it happens. Absolutely not.
No.
Okay, let's bring it back to a spiritual component though, because we've been getting off on our own biases here. Okay, so we all know the story of when Jesus went into the temple, and it's from Matthew 21. So I'm just going to read like a little piece of it. Okay, then Jesus went into the temple of God and drove out all those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned tables of the money changers and those who sold doves. Okay, so looking at this verse as a standalone, you think to yourself, okay, Jesus went in and he let these people have it, therefore no business. But a lot of people take this verse out of context. Because if this verse was so black and white, obviously all the abunas, all the bishops, all the popes, and even within the church doctrine, it would say like, no business. And then we'd abide by that, right? So to clarify on this content, we did a little research before the show, and the thing that is about this particular verse is they were selling doves in the temple, which is, doves back then were a form of sacrifice, right? So obviously you need the coin changers because you have people coming in. At that time, currency wasn't developed. It was all for the sake of the doves, which were used for the sacrifice. But at that point, people were exploiting the sacrifice, right, to make money off them. So they were exploiting directly the sacrifice, not a business, right?
It's not that Jesus had a problem with people selling inside the temple. It's what they were selling and what they were
selling, and how they were selling.
So for example, an example of that would be like, as we know in the Middle Ages, within certain within certain churches, they were charging for confession, right? Like, no problem. You've killed a couple people, no big deal. A couple 100,000 here, a couple mansions, and it's all taken care of.
You're forgiven,
right? But I think it's very important, and this is maybe the take-home message to all our viewers, and ourselves included, because I've definitely learned a lot today, is that we can't necessarily take something within the Bible without knowing the context behind it, and we can't take it in the Bible without having some spiritual guidance and some backup. Because our own level is only so limited to the things that we know. For now, we've run out of time, and I think maybe this is another great episode that can come out of the same topic. We just want to remind our viewers that these were just our views, not the views of the church. And until next time, perspect yourself.